Recording on 3, 2.
Hi, I'm Keba Buckley-Button, and I am interested in reducing the stress of professionals who are very concerned about their level of stress, pain, and fatigue. I can teach them how to do it very quickly. I've been asked how I got into stress management, and if there was some particular thing that catapulted me there, yes. 30 or 40 years ago, I started to hurt from head to toe over a period of months. I burned from head to toe, and I made a right turn out of engineering and spent all my time focusing on what solutions could be, because obviously taking pills wasn't very interesting. And I discovered over an 8-year period, at the end of which I realized I was done. I was through with that condition. And I discovered during that time that what you eat, how you breathe, and what your stress management profile is all made a huge difference to your health and how young you feel or how old you feel. So that was my change point. I took a right turn, and today I have books, videos, hundreds of articles online. I help a lot of people. For my second question, if I could give one ideal stress management tip, what would it be? I would like for everyone to feel comfortable and confident that they can shift their stress very quickly in seconds. We have within our body, mind, heart, spirit systems, each of us, we have 70 trillion cells, and they can all shift in less than a half a minute. In fact, they can shift in seconds. So what I want you to do is use one of my invisible stress management techniques, and here's my best one. I want you to drop your shoulders. It doesn't matter if you're wearing a tux or a suit or a t-shirt and shorts. Drop your shoulders and exhale. Exhale as if you are exhaling completely to your toes. And then picture your stress going out of your toes, out into the universe. The universe has an infinite ability to absorb your stress. And you will find that your whole metabolism has changed. You'll also notice that your shoulders are lower, which is very key. We hold a lot of stress right in our shoulders. So that's my number one invisible instant stress management tip.
Very nice. Okay, so I want you to think, I want everybody to think when you're crafting 3 questions on a particular topic, and why do we pick 3? It could be any amount, 10, it doesn't matter. We start with something manageable, because do we all agree that we can all craft 3 questions and craft an answer for it? I mean, and to the point where we have confidence. And that's really what it comes down to, is chunking a very large subject, which often could be very intimidating. You think about when you get invited to a media interview, your general subject area could be vastly open to interpretation by another party. So the questions could be all over the place, right? It's that fear of being able, or it's that fear of being asked something that you may not know how to answer and you may look bad. That keeps us away from the media. That's why we're not out there actively pursuing media opportunities. Here's the solution. Master chunks of information. Just master areas and then direct the media in which area that you would like to be questioned on. If you master the chunks, they can reword the question any way they want it, and they can ask supporting questions around it, and you're going to be okay with it. You will have a response for it because you chunked it down. Now you think about, you can take any area, any industry, and you can become an expert in it, but become an expert in it one bite-sized media response at a time. That's how you get mastery. That's how you position yourself in the media as an expert. You just take one question and you formulate a 1 to 3 minute response for it. Now, sometimes it's a 30-second response, and sometimes that one question ends up being 3 or 4 questions within. You have to allow the host to have the flexibility to ask what they want. What we don't encourage you to do is demand that they ask you the questions that you submitted. And the reason is because then it's not a conversation, it's a presentation. And you run the risk of appearing very stiff. And you don't want to do that. Really, you want to go into a media interview very comfortable, very natural, very confident, to be able to deliver your message in such a way that you don't look like a robot. Excuse me, I'm realizing right now I got Keba highlighted the entire time as I'm speaking, so sorry for the video that's showcasing Keba the entire time as I'm speaking. No, what I'm saying is for the finished video. When people watch it, it's going to be confusing because they're. Yeah. So what I'm doing on my end is I'm controlling the recording, but I drifted off. I got too caught up in Keva's subject area.
Okay. Can we get some feedback? So Keba, one of the things I wanted to, you're fantastic in front of the camera anyway. You know your content very well. And then we're just going to work through this a lot more. So this is just having fun, rehearsal. It's nothing like this is what it's going to be your media message. But I just want to get some feedback from the people, because this is a great way for us to do, what is that called? Like a case study, or when you're polling people.
Just focus group.
A focus group. Yeah. So if there's something that any of you would like to know, something that you could do practically and that would change your life like instantly, and you want to get that answer from Keba, what would that question be for Keba? Or maybe nobody's stressed.
One question might be, I'm in the middle of a room of people and I'm getting up to do something like a presentation or a media interview or something like that. How do I take that deep breath and do that technique without it being seen and exposing the fact that I'm terrified?
May I respond?
Yes.
Okay. Karen, hi. The trick is, when I don't want you to take a deep breath, I want you to exhale, because the upper 2/3 of your lungs are all that you're normally accessing. And to exhale all the way to the bottoms of your lungs means that you're getting rid of the air pollution and some other things that are lodged in your lungs. And you could actually do a couple of exhales before you go into the room, or in the ladies' room is a great place if you feel that your exhale will show. I mean, you don't have to make a noise like, although that's another technique that's good to do in private, because it does empty the lungs and it clears the throat energy. But if you exhale and drop your shoulders slowly, I'm doing it right now, all the way to my toes. I can even do it while I'm talking. And if you avoid doing it, say my shoulders are up because I'm stressed, a sudden exhale is going to show, I promise. But if you're doing it as a little release, most people will not notice. They have their own worries going into the room. They're all worried about having got their kid to school on time, and their mom that has cancer, and do they look right, and do they have spinach in their teeth, and they should have had another coffee, and they're really too tired, and they have to make a payment before 5 o'clock, but does your seminar end in time for them to get to the bank or to their computer screen? So most people are worried about their own agenda, and they're not watching you that much until you get on stage. So I recommend doing a very fluid exhale, and I'm doing one right now, and my shoulders are descending, but you can hardly see it. And that's what I recommend. Invisible stress management. So don't inhale. That'll add to your stress.
So don't inhale before you exhale is what you're asking.
Right. Your inhale will take place naturally. You'll have a reflexive inhale. And when you're not in a presentation situation, if you practice exhaling all the way out to the end of your breath until you are breathless, and there's a reflexive inhale, just practice. In fact, if you do it on ha, like ha, out to the end of your breath, and when you're almost choking, then you allow the reflexive inhale, and you can, if you focus, you can actually feel it hit the bottoms of your lungs. Now you know where the bottoms of your lungs actually are, because they're smaller than most people think. So that's what I recommend. And then, excuse me, within 30 seconds of doing that exhale, you will feel a rush up the back of your head. That is oxygen, which is unknown territory to many people.
Yeah.
Your brain does need oxygen, and it's not getting it when we're stressed. Does that help you, Karen?
Yes, thank you.
Super.
I actually asked that question for other people that I know that have really been tongue-tied or, just really sweating it out. Maybe another caveat to that is oftentimes you notice in a speaker, when they are uncomfortable, their voice gets thin and pitched up. So if you're in the middle of doing something like that, how do you relieve that tension to be able to not expose the fact that, yeah, you really are having a trouble and you're panicking there?
If you're in fear and you can get to your forefinger, massaging your forefinger or just holding it gently, like a little hug, that will release fear. It will harmonize fear. It's has to do with where the meridians in the body are. And also, if the voice is getting thin, then an area across the centers of the shoulder blades is tightening up, and it's grabbing on the nerves that come up to the throat, to the voice. So the forefingers are also the unlockers of that nerve group. And you can actually relax your voice by holding your forefingers. So that's why you see, if you're at a table, you can easily just wrap your fingers and relax your arms on the board table or in your lap under the board table. You can also put your hands behind your back and try massaging or just holding your forefingers, especially your right forefinger. So part of my game is to help get those stress management moves into your physical vocabulary so that you can do them right in front of anybody without being seen or noticed or without being distracting. Isn't that fun?
Oh, that's great. That's great.
Okay, let's cut there for a moment. Good job. So, you know what we're doing right now? What we just did? Anyone?
Practicing?
We just did a media
conversation.
We just did a media interview.
Oh, yay.
Cool, right?
Cool.
And let's continue doing that. I want everybody to have practice, but if you can at some point just put your topic in chat and your 3 questions in chat for the rest of the group to see. We're going to move down the line, and at any point, if somebody wants to jump in and direct one of the questions from chat directly to one of our guests, we're just going to toggle back and forth so we get lots of practice. Now, in this week, I want to focus on one of the 3 V's that we're going to cover over the next 2 weeks, and that's verbal, vocal, and visual. So this week, it's mostly going to be verbal, which is really the messaging, the content, the nature, the Q&A, the responses, and how you're just practicing. I like to call it messing about. It's just go ahead and just role play, have fun, experiment with different vocal tonality if you wish. The vocal and the visual part of it, we're going to cover in week 4, and that's going to be more along the lines of how to look your best on camera, how to look and sound your best on camera. And we'll give you a lot of media coaching tips, how, things such as what equipment to use, how to position yourself on camera, just how to add extra pizzazz to the vocal and visual presentation. So we're not going to do a lot of that today. I'll probably just, as we go along, I'll throw some tips in here and there, but next week it'll be a little more formalized. We'll have it a little more structure so we cover some key points that you need before you go online for a media interview. But right now, we're just messing about. We're just a bunch of people practicing interviewing each other, and we want to get to know each other a little bit more too, because by having a sense of what the person's expertise is, we're also going to get an idea of what this little focus group actually wants to know about the subject. So here's what I want to say about the Q&A, and this is really key. If you can get this down and practice it from this point on, it is going to be absolutely life-changing for your future interviews. And that is this. You can really come up with any set of questions you want. Or actually, well, you can come up with the questions, and the media can come up with any set of questions they want. And you can also come up with any set of responses that you want. But I want you to think of this. I want you to think of your question as a form of the biggest pain that your hungry market is currently experiencing. Okay, I'm going to let that sink in for a moment because it's a powerful concept. Remember, we identified at the beginning the hungry market. We always start with the hungry market. And then we chunk it down to the next is what is the hot topic? So at this point, you should have an idea of who your hungry market is and what the hot topic is. And then the next thing we do is we come up with that hot title. Because if we have a hungry market and a hot topic, but our title is kind of lackluster, or it doesn't grab attention, you're not going to get the click, and people are not going to watch your video. Or if you're presenting it to a media outlet and they're reading the title and there's nothing in there that hooks them, they're not going to take your call, they're not going to email you. So let's make an assumption at this point that you have a hungry market, you have a hot topic, you have a great hot title in mind. Now I want you to think specifically about the content of the media interview. And to craft your 3 questions that are going to give you the biggest payoff is going to craft it around your hungry market's biggest pain, their biggest problems. So think about, what are the 3 biggest problems that my hungry market is currently experiencing? And then your response is, what is the solution to each one of those problems?
So Ray, do you want to do this like The View, where I see the first person who posted, we'll go Karen first to be the guest, and then Sohaila will be after that. So Karen, so do you want to do this like The View, where people are looking at the questions and then just jump in with questions?
Well, just so that we make sure we cover everyone, we can do that towards the end. But what I'd like to do right now is I'd like to go down the line and make sure that we first of all introduce everybody's hot topic and also get an idea of the 3 questions that they have. So if you've posted your questions, that's available for everyone else. But what I'd like to do is just spotlight each and every one of you, so you have your opportunity to give your topic, your background, and then we will do that towards the end. We'll start rapid firing some questions off. Okay, ready? Are you up, William? Ready to go?
Question?
I am, Ray. Do you want to
Okay, fire away.
All right. I didn't hear you, Ray. Do you want to start with me?
Yeah, go ahead and just give us your background, your hot topic, and some of the questions that you've crafted.
So, okay, cool. So my background, I started, I was wondering between the Success Showcase, Charity Showcase, Experience Showcase. So I kind of created a mix, a blend of all that. And, speaking about my background. So I thought I'm a photographer and visual brand consultant. And I also like seeing myself as a storyteller, because my passion for the planet has led me to travel for my job during 20 years photographing the planet. And what I was usually taking pictures of was wildlife, transformational leadership adventures, and the human journey. So the first question I came up with, like a shared Success Showcase, it's you know, the first question you would be asking was, who are you and what's your story? So I gave you the first answer. And the second question was, what insights have you discovered traveling the world as a photographer? And my answer to that is how beautiful is our planet and how fast globalization is seriously affecting vital resources. That awareness comes with responsibility, the responsibility to act and to make the commitment every day to honor and protect our planet, and that we can't make any excuses anymore, and we must take action. So to the question, what are you currently working on? I focus now on helping today's heroes that are making the world a better place. Those who believe in the Native American spirit, that we don't inherit the land from our ancestors, but borrow it from our children. The art purpose-driven entrepreneurs, conscious citizens, and loving parents who want their actions, stories, and brands to matter. And because I believe that change comes from the movers and the shakers. From that point, I move to the question, how do you do that? And I answer by saying that mostly by helping people get back the power and purpose of their life story together to shine and build their legend. And with the science of visual storytelling, I guide them through a 3-step visual brand process to get the clarity they need to transform their vision into a tangible expression that can be felt and seen.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you, William.
Yeah, thanks, William. Let's get some feedback.
Okay, William, when you're looking at your computer screen, what are you looking at specifically?
The slides I created.
Oh, okay. Are they down lower on your screen?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a little tip. As I said, I'm just going to inject stuff as we go along. We'll cover this in greater detail when we, as I mentioned, when we are looking at how to look your best on camera. So what's happening right now, and I think I just want to draw everyone's attention to it, is William's gaze is down and he's losing a little bit of the personal connection with us because it doesn't look like direct eye contact. So here's something that's really cool that you can do. If you have your camera mounted towards the top, let's say you have a laptop and you have your camera mounted at the top of your laptop, one of the things you want to do is keep your camera at least at eye level, preferably slightly above, and I'll tell you why slightly above. If you're conscious about the way you look on camera, such as the camera adds 10 pounds, you've heard that before. The only reason the camera adds 10 pounds is because of the camera positioning. That's the only reason. So if you position a camera correctly, slightly above the level of your eyes, so it's aiming down, will actually make you look a little thinner. Okay, that's just a little tip. But here's the thing. Go with eye level at least, because eye level is going to position the camera in such a way that it frames you nicely. There's not any kind of strange angles. But the other thing you want to do is make sure that your eye gaze is as close to the camera as possible. So if you're putting a camera at the top of your laptop, or if you have one built into it, the very first thing you want to do is you want to build your laptop up with some books. Just put something underneath it so it brings up the level of it. If it's a desktop or if you have your camera on a tripod, you can control the height easily. So depending on what type of equipment you're using. If you're now feeling really uncomfortable about looking at a camera and speaking, because you can actually like to look at the screen to connect with somebody, if you can get your gallery view high enough up on the monitor, bring somebody up. Now, we don't always have direct control as to who we can place at the top of a gallery, but if you have somebody at gallery view, if you're looking towards the top of your monitor, you can actually have direct eye contact with them. But in the event that you don't have that, here's another cool thing that a lot of people don't do that's really effective. Take a little picture of somebody. You all heard your ideal client or your ideal customer avatar. Find your friendly avatar, your picture of somebody that you really connect with, and just stick their picture right on your camera, like just right on the, like near your camera, above it or very close to it, and look at them as you're speaking. That way you're going to have direct eye contact with the entire group. So William, just go ahead and look at your camera right now and just give us a little bit of a narration, again, of who you are, and notice the difference, everyone. Watch the difference in the connection. So look directly into your camera, William, and speak to us.
Okay, so what I do usually, I help people get back the power and purpose of their life story to shine and build their legend. So is that better?
That was good. And you're actually, I see that you're still looking off to the side to see some notes, but that's okay because you gazed back occasionally. You can look into the camera and gaze off to check your notes, but connect back to the camera. Think of the coffee shop conversation. When you're sitting in a coffee shop, you're not staring at somebody the entire time, looking at them in the eyes. You're going to you're going to glance away, you're going to look back. You're going to glance away, you're going to look back. So that's a natural way to converse. So we do the same thing online. So just remember that it's okay to have notes open. Just make sure that you're not staring at your notes and you're losing that connection. Be conscious of your camera and just keep back every once in a while and you'll maintain the connection with everyone. Okay. Very good, William.
I do.
I want everyone to start thinking of some possible questions for William a little later on. We'll bring them back. And Karen, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Karen, introduce yourself and tell us what your hot topic is and some of the questions that you have in mind.
Okay. My name is Karen Pierce, and I am a coach and speaker and business consultant. I am all about helping people really make the balance between what's going on in their work life and in their home life. My passion is really about helping people see success in both areas. My background is in both corporate life as well as overseas experience and owning my own business. And at the same time, growing 2 boys and keeping a marriage together and very happily together for 36 years. My hot topic is 3 ways of taking your work home that will enhance your marriage.
What?
Oh, I love that.
What?
That is awesome.
Sorry, that's a good hook.
That is a good hook. You're gonna get some media attention with that one.
Your question.
Question.
First question was, most people would say working nights and weekends at home, it really causes more trouble in your marriage. So it sounds like you're saying it will make it better. How? And my answer to that would be, actually, I really don't mean literally taking work home and holding yourself up in a den. I mean taking some of the principles that have made you successful in your workplace and applying it to your relationships in the home. So most people will fit their life around their work. The work is really the central thing in their life. And that means, by definition, that their work is their priority. The family is second. Their relationships are second. And usually what's behind that is the fear of losing their job and their security, their future, that sort of thing. Whereas they will take for granted really what's going on in their family, their relationships there, because that's a given. So they sacrifice on that end, but that really is not what we most value. It's those relationships, but they tend to get the short shaft. So I encourage people to take a look at how they manage their career. For example, you can work yourself to death, and you can get sick and have all kinds of stress problems and have to quit your job, or you get fired or whatever. The company really doesn't, they may care, but they're going to find somebody else to fill in. You can find another job much more easily than you can find another family. You can find another spouse. If you do, that comes with a whole nother set of issues. So I really look at building successful teamwork at home, much like you do in the business world, with 3 specific things: having a common goal, trust within the team, your spouse, and having some clear priorities and some ways to make that fun.
Very good.
Excellent. Thank you. And I want everybody again to think about, are there any questions that stem from anything that she says? If you've got any ideas of something that you want to know specifically, I want you to put your host hats on and think of what would you want to ask this guest a little later on. Okay, I'm going to give you a little bit of feedback, Karen, regarding just some technical stuff. And again, we'll cover this all in detail, but as I said, I just want to throw a bunch of tips out as we go along. So let's just talk about placement on the monitor, your actual physical placement. You'll notice that sometimes people will, I'm just going to click to my screen for a moment so I get a close-up of me. Sometimes people will get really close to the camera like so, and depending on what type of cameras you're using, some cameras are more wide angle than others. So sometimes you just get the fisheye look if you're using a certain type of camera, like maybe a smartphone or something, you're super close. Other cameras, which I'm using right now, the Logitech C920, which we'll give you that later on, but that is it's a wide angle camera, and look, we can put two people in the shot, and we have a lot of room to gesture and also show things like backdrop. And in your case, your background, Karen, it's very wide, so I can see a lot of what's going on. Now that could be good or it could be not so good because it may be distracting. You can actually create a background that will serve your message. And if it's not serving your message, it could potentially cause people's thoughts to drift. Because just as I'm looking right now, I see that you have a window in the back. Now, first rule, never have a window in the background. If you can, if you can cover up a window, close the shades. The reason is it creates backlight problems. It's going to throw off your color, which it is. It's throwing off the color on your camera. So that's just a no-no. Just make sure windows are covered up. Secondly, if you have things like books, those potentially could be distracting. If you have pictures on the wall, I'm looking a lot of time. I'm often looking at your decor as you're speaking. Okay, so simple solution around that, a couple. You can use Zoom's green screen feature, throw a green screen behind you and put whatever backdrop you want. You can see what Maria and I are doing here is just using any type of folding backdrop that could cover it up. Black is a nice color to use for a backdrop. That's the one I use personally.
Why is our color off though, right? Because I've got a lamp in front.
Yeah.
Now we're in my office, so of course Ray he has a studio. So I've got a little bit. It looks yellow to me. So does it look yellow to you guys?
Yeah, it's because of the bulb you're using, and it's because I didn't have time to adjust the lighting when I came in here. Right. But that's a good point. We'll cover that as well as what type of bulbs, what type of lamps, home lamps that you can do. This is all low cost, but we're looking right now. A quick advice for you, Karen, is I love the positioning for you right now. You have lots of gesture room, but I would put your eyes a little bit higher up. I don't know if you have direct control of your camera right now, but I want everybody to watch this. There's what's called the rule of thirds in media. You can imagine your screen right now is divided into two horizontal lines and two parallel lines. And Karen, I want your eyes at the upper third. Right now, your head's at about mid-position, and it looks a little bit awkward. It's an unusual position. So regardless of where your face is, whether you're farther back or closer up, I want your eye level to be at the upper third. Keep working on getting a little higher if you can. Are you able to adjust your camera or your chair? Okay,
my chair's probably easier than my camera at the moment.
Okay, good. Does everybody see just the immediate improvement of putting her eyes at that upper third level? So if you're all, go ahead and do this. If you're not at the upper third level, everyone, go ahead and adjust yourself. And now this is a good teaching tip right here. Here's an exception.
Yeah, our chairs are bumping each other.
There's two on camera. So the question is, whose eyes go to the top? It's the taller person's eyes go to the upper third. Maria goes down a little lower, and that's totally okay. Because obviously if Maria goes to upper third, then I get cut off, right? Okay, so that's just another thing. So
And our office chairs are bumping each other.
Yeah. Again, not ideal circumstance
What
for
not to do here.
what not to do, but this is why you want to make sure that you prepare prior to your shooting, and once you have your set up, you're going to just be able to jump in each time. You get your audio down, you get your visual down, and your messaging down, and it'll just be quick. Have a seat, turn on your camera, and ready to go. So it'll take a little bit, not a lot of work to get set up properly. But my advice to you is to either stage your backdrop with only appropriate things. A good example would be if you're an author and you have a number of books. If you have a bookshelf, only put your books on that shelf so other people can see it and it supports your message. If it's other people's books, it's distracting. If it's visually appealing, I would say, okay, if it's a bookshelf that's visually appealing and I can't read the titles, because if I can read the titles, that becomes a distraction. But if it's visually appealing, if it's a lamp, if it's plants, it's flowers, that's all okay. No problem. You can stage your backdrop. So just be conscious at this point of your backdrop when you're doing a media interview. Okay.
And can I just add, I don't know if anybody else noticed, but Karen, I don't know if you've actually sat up taller, but just like Ray repositioned you, you look taller. Does anybody else notice that? Or is that just me? I think she looks
taller because she adjusted her seat.
But
I think she went up higher.
She looks straighter.
But you just brought up a great point. Here's another teaching point. How should you sit in a chair in a media interview, whether it's online or in studio? You do not use the back of your chair. Don't use the back of your chair. Don't ever lean back like this, because leaning back could actually make you look a little arrogant. If you're on a sofa and you're looking back, you could look a little arrogant. It also makes it actually wrinkles your clothing. So if you're wearing a nice blouse or a dress shirt, it's going to just throw a bunch of wrinkles into it. So go to the first part, the edge of your chair, and just use imagine that there's a string attached from your tailbone to your head as if somebody's pulling you up by that string. And you're maintaining that straight up position, slightly leaning forward. And then now, and Keba would know that this position alone is going to help your breathing, right? Right, Keba?
Oh, yes. I wanted to share that Karen hi Karen, you now look younger and more radiant. You lost 8 or 10 years with whatever it was you just did to shift your posture. It caused more energy to spiral up your system. Even your eyes have changed. If you have a mirror, look at your eyes.
That's a really
good.
Powerful point. Well, Keba, you just brought up a great point. Positioning yourself correctly on camera will make you look better on camera. It'll make you look thinner, younger, whatever it is that if you do it correctly, you can control a lot of the way you look. If you want higher energy, position yourself in such a way that supports higher energy. Slouching does not support higher energy. Relaxing too much does not support higher energy. So these are just teaching tips we're throwing out as we go along, and you can start implementing them. Next week, we'll apply them all. That'll be part of our dress rehearsal. So I'm just gonna throw out as much as I can right now. Hopefully it's not overwhelming, because there's a lot of stuff that I want to try to keep it simple, but I think so far this is simple. Sit up straight. Keba gave some information on breathing, how to prepare your breathing, what happens when you got nerves, how to control your nerves. Those are all things that we can do before we get on camera and while we're on camera. Okay, awesome so far, guys. You're doing great. And let's go ahead and bring up Sohaila now. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Sohaila. Welcome. And go ahead and introduce yourself to the group, your hot topic, and some of the questions.
Are you ready?
Yes, we're ready.
Okay, hold on. Let me get my heater off here. Can you hear me?
We can.
Are you getting naked? What's going on?
No. I'm just kidding. I love standing when I was shooting. I was filming. That's why my curtains are like this. So I don't know if am I too short because I usually have
No, that looks, it's right on, but let me make a comment before you get started.
Yeah.
It supports what we just talked about. An
Yeah.
appropriate wide
me to
angle
stay here?
background.
Yeah.
This is an appropriate wide
Yeah.
angle background
Yes.
because it's appropriate to your expertise.
True.
Yeah.
It is visually appealing. It's non-distracting.
Oh,
So
okay.
even though there's a lot of background showing, here's what I see.
Normally, I don't see
I
that.
see some certificates off to the side. That immediately makes me think credibility, that you've got some kind of credentials in whatever it is. I can't read it, but that's the thing that just jumps out at me right away. And then I see this beautiful color that's very supportive, and everything looks visually really cool. So just wanted to add that. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Minus the heater.
Yeah. Where's the heater? Oh, yeah, I didn't see the heater. Yeah, good point. Yeah, good point. The heater doesn't add any value.
You don't see this when I do my voiceover and stuff. So hi, my name is Sohaila, and I am a professional belly dance artist. I have founded a fitness fusion class that takes you around the world in literally 45 minutes. All different dance genres. It's called Nuvo Fitness. It's for men, it's for women. Now look, we all sit on the computer, right? And we have to get up and exercise. We get tired of exercise, your everyday routine, going to this gym all the time, getting tired. Well, I have something for you. It's a research-based. Now, you know, research shows that real transformation starts in the mind through your body with movement, right? No matter what your age. So you have to try Nuvo. Let's see. Okay, more?
Keep rolling.
Okay, so so it's a research-based program, takes you around the world, and I've noticed a change when I teach women. I find that they're really tired, they're in a rut, and so I use aerobics with enhancement of belly dance movements, and they get so energized. It's a pump-up cardio workout that leaves you just filled with energy all day long, and it's not just for men or women, it's for men too. So give it a try and let's dance away.
Awesome. I love it. Okay.
I made actually a presentation that if you guys want to see it, it has lots more stuff though, but
Okay. Did you post your questions?
She did.
well, yeah,
Okay,
I did.
good.
So I just did it with your past, present, and future.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. So
Yeah,
anybody that has any additional questions for Sohaila, just jot them down right now. We'll come back to her. And anything that you want to know about anything that she just presented to you. If you imagine yourself as a host, what would you want to know from this guest based on the presentation that you just heard? All right. Thank you so much, Sohaila. And we will move over to Norma now. Go ahead and unmute yourself, Norma. Hello, Norma, and introduce yourself to the group and your hot topic and some of the questions.
First, before I do anything, let me tell you, this is not where I normally do interviews. This is just my desk area. I have two areas set up. One is like around here. When I set it all up, and you can see but it's a new computer, so I haven't got that hooked up. But basically, it says no regrets, obviously in action, and that's one. And then I have another one that I do this way, where I have a whole screen that I put up. I either have a black or orange or a rug that I've hooked. That's all.
Okay, awesome. Will you have that available for next week?
I will have one or both available for next week.
Okay, awesome.
Absolutely.
Go ahead when you're ready.
Yes. So I'm really all about authenticity. I've spent my lifetime understanding what it means to live authentically to what it means to be authentic. But you know, it's such a challenge because the word authenticity is so broad and people don't really know how it works and where it fits in the world. And I've been searching all my life trying to figure out where it fits. And usually I do this without glasses, but I'm going to read my questions shortly anyway. So recently I found out that my work fits in human rights, or at least that's what I thought. And then I went research human rights and found out that no, really I'm about human dignity. And so my question and my focus for my topic is, have you found your dignity? So my three questions, the one is, what in the world is human dignity? And so I talk about that from the standpoint of, I believe that all of us were born with a certain level of gifts and talents. And for some reason, society is not necessarily honoring and respecting our gifts and talents. And The challenge that we have as human beings is recognizing what gifts and talents are truly ours, or are we going to live our lives like robots, following what the role that society says? And dignity means that you stepped into knowing who you are and you're very comfortable living that, and you do every effort you can to step into that and to be your true authentic self. And why is it important? Because indignity is the foundation of who we are as humanity. I didn't realize till recently that over the last 5,000 years of human recorded history, only 70 of those years have focused on human rights and human dignity. I had no idea it wasn't a natural thing on society. And it's important because the planet, I thought, was for humans, but society doesn't necessarily respect that. And that's what I want to see come back into the world. And I also want, the third question is, do you have any tips for people? And my tip for people would be to listen to their inner voice and connect with their gifts and talents so that they can be their authentic self with dignity. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, and again, start formulating any questions that you'll have for Norma in addition to the questions that she submitted. Okay, I just want to check in with everyone here. Did we get everyone so far? Yeah, I think we did, right, Maria?
Yes.
We got everyone. All right. Now, who wants to be on The View?
So at this point, everybody's heard everyone's topic and the questions that they have formulated. So we're just going to do the View, and we're just going to pick one person to go first. And then all of us, as the View hosts, will just jump in and ask questions just naturally. And so I want the person who is being highlighted or showcased, I want you to truly feel like you are being interviewed by a group of hosts. How would you sit or stand? Like Sohaila, it's very appropriate for you to stand because you may be demonstrating some dances, so that's appropriate. For most of us, sitting is just fine. So just make sure that whatever you feel is going to best suit your topic or your brand, do so. So should we just randomly pick somebody, Ray, to go first, and then everyone will jump in?
Yeah, we'll go ahead with Karen.
So we'd like to welcome Ms. Karen Pierce, who is a business consultant, a business coach, a successful entrepreneur, and most importantly, has a wonderful home life with her husband and children. Thank you so much for being here, Karen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here.
Let's cut there for a moment. I want to throw a teaching point out. Now, Maria and I are sitting side by side right now. So imagine that you're in a position to be a co-host. You might find yourself in that position to be a co-host. And here's what many people often make the mistake. Okay, watch this, because this is very powerful. From this point on, when I bring it to your attention, you're going to see it happen so often. And it happens. You're going to see even some people that are very well-known professional speakers make this mistake. It's very uncomfortable. And just watch this. So Maria right now is talking to you, the audience. The camera is doing a wide shot showing both of us. Now, often when you're on a stage or you're on camera, you may not necessarily know what the director is calling for a shot.
Mm-hmm.
Might call a wide shot, might call a tight shot. Don't make an assumption that there's a tight shot on Maria just because she's speaking. So as she's speaking, I'm sitting there like this, you know, scratching my nose, blowing my nose, whatever. You need to make an assumption that you're on camera the entire time. Okay, so that's one of the mistakes, is just make sure that you always believe that you're on camera. So, and act that way. Mm-hmm. The other thing too is, as Maria's talking, people often think that they need to look at Maria because she's talking. But look how awkward that looks to the audience. So go ahead and do the intro again, Maria.
So I'd like to welcome Ms. Karen Pierce, who is a professional business consultant. She's helping professionals live a happy and healthy home life and work life.
Thank you, Maria. It's nice to be here. Hi, Ray.
Great. It's okay. Now I'm going to show you how it should be done. So Maria's going to speak, and I'm going to draw my attention to the audience. And I'm only going to glance over at Maria occasionally to acknowledge. So if she makes a point, like Karen's a highly trained expert, I'll just give a little nod. So just we'll do that again.
So Karen, you are going to be talking to us today on a very controversial topic, I would think, because you're saying to go ahead and bring your work home to have a happier marriage. And I instantly say, how is that even possible?
Absolutely. And I could join in at this point. I could add some flavor to it as we go along. But do you see the difference, how awkward it is for somebody? You will often see speakers on the stage when they're standing side by side, co-presenting. When one is speaking, the other one's looking at them. Don't. Look at your audience, put a big smile on your face, and just smile and nod, and you'll be fine.
And I'd like to add to that. So oftentimes you are being introduced side by side, if you're live, with a host, and they are often doing the introduction for you. So they're looking into the camera. Just be very conscious that you can occasionally look over to them as they're introducing you and look into the camera. A lot of times people are either just staring at the camera like this, it looks awkward, or they're staring at the host introducing them. So just go back and forth, just be as natural as like, hey, yeah, that's me, I'm cool, and just getting ready for the first question.
Okay, great. Okay, you're up, Karen.
So who wants to throw out the first? Just go ahead and just start asking questions.
I'll start by asking one. Karen, I think it's just phenomenal that you have had such a long-term family life. Tell us what's the secret to having such a long marriage?
Oh, thank you, Norma. I've been very blessed, but I would have to say, if there was one thing I would say that's made a huge difference in our relationship through all of the changes, all of the moves, all of the careers, all of the kid issues, it's been that we've always had the end in mind. We had a vision of what we're going to look like when we're old, what our relationship's going to be like, what our kids are going to be like, what our relationships with our daughters-in-law would be like. And with that long-term view, all the challenges, the hiccups, the obstacles in the road that happens on a day-to-day basis, they look a lot smaller. It's like looking at an anthill close up. It looks like a mountain, right? If that's as far as you're going to look with your relationship, you have no real tools to deal with that mountain. But when you're looking further out and you're seeing and working towards the same goal of really a lifelong happiness, togetherness, deepening relationship, and you know what that looks like, those little hiccups along the way are just that. You already have made the determination that you're going to get through no matter what it is.
Well, I find that interesting because I hear them say also that in business, it's important to have a vision and a long-term goal. So do you find the two go hand in hand?
Absolutely. The only thing I would say would be different is that you know, in business, things are very clinical, right? We're gonna make this shipment. We're gonna develop this product. We're going to capture this market percentage, right? When we're looking at your marriage, you don't set it down quite so specifically. What I'm looking at when I put a vision together is something that really covers all 5 senses. So when I read it back to myself, I kind of look at it as like a day in the life of Karen Pierce 5 years from now. Here's what I'm doing in the morning. This is how my relationship is with my husband. You know, he wakes me up with a kiss. I get up and get my coffee going because I'm excited to go to my new job where I'm doing this. And I love it because, and you fill in the blank. I'm now living in a house on the beach and enjoying a fresh morning swim and enjoying the silence as I go underwater. I'm looking forward to the weekend when my son and daughter-in-law are going to be bringing their brand new baby over for the weekend so that we can have time to play. Putting all those things together really starts to hone in on what you value and what you're working towards. So that becomes the foundation by which you actually make decisions on a day-to-day basis of what you're doing, on a weekly basis of what you're accomplishing toward that goal.
Well, the joy of your success certainly shows in your message to us today. Tell us, what would be the #1 tip you would give to our audience?
Begin with the end in mind. And take that time. I put that whole exercise off for a very long time because I thought, I don't have time, first of all, to just sit down and dream. But if you don't dream, dreams can't come true. and it takes work to achieve them. So if you know where you're going and you've got that end in mind, you can figure out how to get through the bumps.
Well, thank you, Karen. Your message has been very important to our audience. I appreciate your event. I'm taking some of your advice myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Norma. It's a pleasure.
Excellent. Okay, great job. So a couple of comments. Is Karen awesome? It was
Very
just
good.
very natural, great gesturing, lots of energy, enthusiasm, knowledge of the subject. Right on, right on. I've got really nothing to add to plus that what you just did. It was just really, really well done. But let's amp it up a little bit for everyone. What I want you to do now is, so what you just experienced was a controlled interview where there's one host. So.
And Norma, you did a great job, by the way. You're highest.
Impressive.
Thank you.
So what can happen on shows like The View is you have a lot of people over talking each other, and they're all wanting to compete for the space. So I want you to experience that, and the moment, so here, this is going to be a little more challenging for everybody now because you're going to have to think on your feet. It's what's the word I'm looking for? I can't think of the word. What when you go to impromptu. That's it. Thank you. It's yeah. Thanks, William.
Thank you, Mr. Frenchman.
Hey, normal.
So we're going to barrage Karen with some questions, and she's going to just start with short answers. And Karen, as soon as you don't have to do it full out. It's just as soon as you start to answer the questions and other people come in with additional questions, I want you to pass it over to someone else to then, so basically you're passing the guest role over to someone else. And I want you to pick who that is.
Okay.
And then as soon as Karen passes it over to someone else, we're going to then jump in. Whoever can jump in the fastest with a question for that person. So again, this is not something that you're going to have time to go and read as to what their background is. Whatever comes to your mind for the guest, we want to just go ahead and ask the question. And also feel, as Karen, as soon as you start answering a question, if there's another host that feels that they want to add something to or throw out and take and just overpower the original host and throw out another question, because this is very common in those type of interviews. So it's going to be a little bit of a frenzy for everybody, but it's really good training, really to get you over your nerves if you have any. So, okay, ready? Okay, so remember, everybody right now, everybody get ready to compete as the host. And as soon as Karen's ready to pass the baton over to someone else, she'll pick somebody, and then that person will assume the role of the guest, and then we all become hosts again. Okay? So whoever's ready, jump in with a question for Karen.
So Karen, you've been married for how long?
More than 36 years.
Wow. And were there days that you both got up and you didn't actually see the clear vision, what you guys were hoping for together? And how did you overtake that?
Well, the vision was always there, but it certainly got cloudy at times. And to say that we didn't have our troubles would be just,
What was the worst cloud?
Pardon?
What was the worst cloud you've had?
Oh my goodness. The worst cloud, I think, was dealing with our families, our parents, and the control that they had over our lives and how we were going to manage dealing with and showing respect to them and still have an identity of our own. So,
did you ever find that he had a priority first and it wasn't really a priority for you? How did you get balance there?
Oh man, actually I think it was the other way around. It was my parents usually dictating my behavior and what they wanted me to do. And he'd say, hey, Karen, I'm over here, right? So that was really more of a growing experience for me. And I had to really work at, well, when I got married, my responsibilities transferred to my new family, the one that I am personally responsible to. And my adult parents, they they need to adjust to the fact that I am an adult with those responsibilities. But it was a real head game for me. And so we had a lot of shall we say, animated discussions. So,
well, what if you're
how to
married?
just reconcile all those feelings, right?
But what if you're married to the person that you're that you go to work with, and you are, you know, before, during, and after hours, and it seems like we're constantly in work mode because it's just a matter of, hey, let's have this conversation. So what suggestions do you have for us to have a strong marriage and yet respect the boundaries and everything that, you know, our vision as we go in together?
I understand that totally. I mean, right now I work with my husband, so we're 24/7 all the time. And we really do have some boundaries. We have set times when we're having dinner. We have actually a review at the end of the day as to what the next day is going to bring, you know, any changes in the schedule, how we're going to handle the dog, or, you know, whatever. Just briefly, but we keep everything kind of on task that way. But the evening is the evening, and there's no texting, there's no emails, there's no calls. That's it. And since we are a little bit more flexible, we can say, okay, Wednesday, we're going to take our Saturday. We're going to go out and we're going to be kayaking because we can, and it's 85 degrees outside. Yay. So, you know, we can do that. But then that means maybe Saturday we're going to be doing something different, but that's in agreement. And
go ahead and switch. Go ahead and switch.
Okay. So Shahila, I have got to ask you this because I know my audience is saying, oh my gosh, I'd love to belly dance, but I'm not getting into one of those outfits. Do I have to dress like that?
No, you don't actually. In fact, you know what I have in my studio is, let me show you right here. You wear hip scarves in my class, and men and women wear hip scarves. So,
okay, let me ask you, how many men have you actually squeezed into one of those things?
oh my gosh, many men come and they improve so well. Sometimes you could find men even better than women dancing.
So that just goes over top of your clothes. That's what you mean, it's a hip scarf.
Yeah, so this actually goes around your hips like this.
Cool. I could wear sweatpants and put that over.
Definitely. Yeah, you want to be in a costume, something that you feel comfortable in, like workout wear, you know. And then with this, you could actually hear you move. You could be shimmying, and you could really hear your moves. So it's really awesome. It's so much fun to wear, and it makes you feel like you're a belly dancer.
William, you'd look so sexy in that, William.
I'm sure.
So are cell phones checked at the door?
I
just got to see some of the stuff going on Facebook, and I'm just getting real hanky on that.
You know what's really fun? I actually ask my peeps to film sometimes and post it because, you know, especially when somebody tries this for the first time, they're overwhelmed. I have testimonials after testimonials from people that's tried this for the first time, and they just felt amazing. They tried moving in ways that they've never tried moving their bodies before. I mean, you don't normally walk around doing this, right? You don't normally walk around. I do, but doing this, right? Well, now they do.
Where are you located? I want to take one of your classes.
It's so much fun. You have so much energy after just one class.
Where are you?
I'm in Escondido, but I have online belly dance and Nuvo fitness classes too. I have an exclusive member hub that anybody around the world could take.
Yay.
Yeah.
So how much weight do you think someone could expect to lose in a month of taking your classes?
Well, you know, it all depends on the person. I mean, if they really get into it, then, I mean, you could see a big difference in just a couple weeks. I mean, definitely your posture will get, literally, you're going to stay lifted and much taller, but you're going to find you're going to get some shape. Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Go ahead and pass it over to someone else now, Sohaila.
Yeah, so William, now talking about pictures, I love taking pictures when I'm performing as well as teaching. So what do you recommend, maybe different ways on taking pictures, and especially movement shots? That's very important for me.
Okay, cool. So when I see you moving, it reminds me when I was in India, the Bharatanatyam dance. I don't know if you know that dance. They have a lot of colors. And when you want to take pictures of people dancing, I would take a wide camera and to be able to have, again, this splash of color into one scene. So that would be the one tip I would give to you. Use a camera that has a wide angle to be able to encapsulate all the colors, everything into this one frame.
Now, what about movement in general? Because a lot of pictures, they come out blurry, especially when you have movement. What do you recommend with that?
So that's on my take for that. I like working sometimes with pictures and making them blurry on purpose. You have to know that some pictures look really good when they are very sharp and neat, and some pictures look very nice when they start getting blurry. It's knowing, you know, the difference between what is really neat and what is starting to be blurry. Because when a picture gets blurry, that's when you give the creation of movement. You give the impression of movement. And if you want to show somebody who is dancing, and I will be able to send you some pictures that I did of dancers, by leaving the aperture of the camera open to create this moving, and it's going to create some blur, you create the movement in this way.
William, how do you get people to relax? I mean, I'm sure you've taken portraits and done business photos and things for websites and that. And everybody, when the camera goes on, it just seems to go, you know, this hand, you know, deer in headlights look. How do you get them to just really bring out the personality?
Sure, but I would say it's a little like what Keba shared before. It's change your physiology, you change your energy. As soon as, you know, you sit up straight, how you breathe in the, you know, whether it's the air that you put in or the air that you put out, it's going to change your physiology. I would say the biggest challenge to be get the most out of people is to bring up your energy. If, like in dancing, if you have high energy, you're going to attract people. People are attracted to people who have a high energy. So I would say first, you know, lift up, game up your energy level. And after you want to create rapport with the people, it's when there is a lack of rapport with the people that it's difficult to get a shot, because people are going to feel it. So boost up your energy and have a good relation with people, and then, you know, they would want to give the best shots, and you will get the best shots, obviously.
So, Will, when you find somebody that's literally shy in front of you, what can you do? And they're really stressed out.
The first thing I do when before taking pictures, again, I create this relation, this bondage with the people. I don't stop taking pictures. I just speak with them, have a good time, sometimes go to the beach. You know, I spend a lot of time speaking to them first, and, you know, just laughing together, a human connection. Like any business relation is first a human relation first. So I just want people to feel good with me, and I don't even take the camera first.
And so, Keba, what about the stress factor about that?
About performance in general?
About when somebody's so shy and they just can't get out of their shell, and they're just so stressed because they know that they have to get out of their shell. What do you recommend?
Well, to get out of your shell, there are energy blocks in the body that are at the base of the rib cage. And I need to turn the screen to demonstrate, but basically exhaling is your biggest, fastest weapon. You want to work on a self-esteem program on the longer term. If you just have a few seconds, then exhaling into the ground is really strong. If you have more time to work on it and the person is really shy, shyness is mid-body energy that's stuck. So, all right, given 3 minutes, if they will run in place, it will open up that energy. And people, no kidding, can go in the ladies' room or down the hall where there's a different conference happening and they won't be recognized, and they can run in place for 2 minutes. Very, very powerful. And in the longer term, work on the self-esteem.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see that running. I wouldn't be shy after that. I'd be out of breath.
Right.
I know that Tony Robbins has like a ritual before he goes on stage, and it actually is quite elaborate with breathing and jumping in place, and it's crazy. And he does it right backstage where everyone can see it. But what happens, it gets him into state. So I think, you know, if you just have your own ritual, it doesn't matter if people are looking at you or whatnot. It's just part of, you know, you getting ready on stage. Do you agree with that, Keva?
It doesn't really matter what people think of you anyway. There's a wonderful book called What You Think of Me Is None of My Business.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but that's all the head games that are going on inside. You're worried about what every single person in that audience is thinking, and your pits are sweating, and your knee is bouncing, and you know everybody's clearly going, she's nervous. So what do you do?
Well, the trick is to focus on, I'm going to use Karen, I'm going to use your expression back to you. Focus on your end result. You want to convey some things to this audience, and you've been called to be there. Everyone is where they are by divine appointment in my belief system. And you are the one who has been appointed to speak to them at that moment about your themes, which you want them to make their themes. You want them to take those themes to their hearts. And you need to think about your themes, not who all is out there. And I'll tell you a secret, when there are 3,000 people looking at you, it's much easier, or if you're looking in a TV camera, much easier than talking to a small group face-to-face, like 5 people face-to-face, because when you're in a group of 3,000 or 7,000 or at least large numbers, it becomes the audience. It becomes one entity. When you're talking to the TV camera, you have some awareness of the people that are out there, like you're on the noon local news. But it's much easier because you're really only speaking to one entity, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
Hope
go
that's
ahead and
helpful.
switch over to Norma. Believe Norma is where I'm finding Norma on here. There we go. Go ahead. Any questions for Norma?
Yeah, Norma, you talked about listening to your inner voice and gaining some self-respect and dignity from that. How, you know, I talk to people all the time that have all this negative self-talk. They don't feel that they deserve good treatment, or they just don't feel like they can be successful, or that they deserve good things. So their inner voice isn't very accurate. How would you talk to those people?
Well, there's something that's called self-talk and self-response. So how we talk to ourselves and how we respond to ourselves. And when I found myself, for example, in that situation that I wasn't really listening and wasn't positive, I took a day, as a matter of fact, it was a day when I was speaking, and I tried to remember everything that I said to myself as I was speaking. I had a 90-minute presentation. And when I finished speaking, I sat down, wrote everything down that I remember saying to myself. And that evening I looked at it and I was absolutely shocked. I had 30 things on there and only one of them was positive. So I said to myself things like, you could have said that differently, or you didn't say that right, or you didn't smile right, or just different things, put myself down. So I took that list and I wrote the positive statement next to the list. And I began to work on myself to be more conscious of how I'm talking to myself and how I'm responding to myself. And it took a minute, but I've erased the majority of that. I'm not saying I'm 100%, but it does give a much better perspective on the world by having a better self-talk and self-response.
So yeah, we're our own worst critic at times. Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, but we don't even know it half the time because we're so conditioned. Society conditions us to be so negative, and we're just going along with the program. But we have to stop and take a conscious look at ourselves, an authentic look, to see how we can be happier.
What's your thoughts on affirmations? There's a lot of talk now about, you know, having your affirmations and sitting in front of the mirror and I am this, or I can do this, or whatever. Do you ascribe to that?
I do ascribe to that, and I have to remind myself a lot to do it more often, to practice what I preach. And it doesn't have to be in front of the mirror, but it's actually that's again self-talk. And when you say to yourself things like I am, then your subconscious believes it. So what are you saying after you say I am? And if you say I am happy, healthy, prosperous, wealthy, those things become true, because that becomes a direction that you give your inner voice to give back to you. If you say, I'm unhappy, I'm depressed, your inner voice thinks that's what you want. So the affirmations make a lot of sense. When you craft them in such a way that you meet the needs that you're attempting to achieve in your life, you'll find them showing up.
Now, what about children, Norma? I know that you've worked with children in the past. Now, we want our kids to have good self-esteem, but how do we prevent them from becoming egomaniacs when you're telling them how great they are, you know, or how sweet they are and all that? How do we actually help them find their authentic voice and be self-confident with high self-esteem?
Well, you certainly hit one of my deepest passions, is helping children connect with who they are early in life. And actually, it starts before the age of 5, because before the age of 5, they show you who they are. They're uncensored at that point. They come to you with the gifts and talents that they were born with. If they're born with a verbal gift of words, they talk a lot. And what we do as parents a lot is we tell them, don't talk so much. So we take them away from our gifts so quickly. So to really help them be themselves means helping them to recognize their gifts and talents. And also when it comes time to helping children develop their gifts and talents to have a career, as parents, so often we tell our children, this is what you're going to be when you grow up, because this is how you'll make some money. But in reality, the jobs that are available for the young children today, more than half of them have not even been developed yet. So you can't raise a child to what you think society is going to have. Our parents didn't know we could look in a box like this and talk to someone in another part of the world. So who knows what is going to be available for our children by the time they become adults. So raise them by their gifts and the things that come natural to them, rather than your perception of what their adult life might be.
I'm going to jump in here and give you a little bit of feedback, Norma, because there's something here, you probably heard it before, but I want to just draw attention to it, and I want to get feedback from others that are listening in on this. Norma has a very powerful personal power. It's in her voice, and I guess the best example that comes to mind is Morgan Freeman. When Morgan Freeman speaks, people stop to listen. And he's a very slow speaker, and people often think that you need to speak fast in order to get a message out or to show passion. It's not true. There is something in a person's personality. It's the tonality, it's the cadence of the speech that causes people to stop and listen very closely. And Norma's demonstrating that right now. She could change her cadence of her speech. She could actually slow down her speech, and there's something powerful in her words. And it's not even just the words. The words are certainly a factor. There's something in the vocal tonality that makes you just want to hang off of every word. And I don't exactly know. I've studied media training for a long time, and I don't quite know what that magic is. I haven't been able to place my finger on it. But there are key individuals that have it. And when you walk into a room, visual is one thing, but vocal is another. When somebody opens their mouth and starts to speak, you can often sense this power. Norma, you have that. That's a gift. It's going to serve you very well in media interviews, but also on stages. Because whether you're speaking slow or you're speaking fast, your message is radiating. It's coming through. And I literally just want to stop everything I'm doing and listen to every word you're saying. So if anyone else wants to add to what I'm just saying, if you're finding the same thing, please do.
I'd agree. I mean, and there's also this quiet, calm, assured authority that's in, you know, her picture isn't all that good, but you feel it and see it in what she's doing. That really strikes me as she was speaking. It almost felt like I was listening to a professor or a
authority,
doctor of psychology or something, that it was like, this is an expert, you know, that really came through.
Yeah, key words: peace. Come across as peaceful and authoritative.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, I think everyone here did a wonderful job. So, and like Karen was saying, Norma, if you just correct lighting, it would be just.
Yeah, well, next one, I didn't come with that, but yes, it takes me about 5-10 minutes to set it up. I'll be there next week.
Okay, so here's your homework for next week, everyone. It'll be fun. If you want to continue practicing your topics, now what I'd like you to do for next week is go back to your showcases, pick the 3 showcases that you would like to continue to build your Q&A, your questions, your 3 questions, and your responses. And then practice, practice, practice this week. You can do it with a family member. You can do it if you just want to go on camera yourself, but preferably if you have somebody else that you can converse with, that would be, if you want to reach out to anybody that has joined us for the workshops, if you want to just team up and practice. It really doesn't matter. It's your own personal preference, but practice for the purpose of showing up next week as if it was a dress rehearsal, and you're actually going to just go right on to the show, and you're ready. You got all your messaging down, and we will record it. And in the meantime, I'm going to put together a documentary with some tips to look your best on camera. And again, as I mentioned, I'll cover that as well next week, but I'll send a PDF document that includes what I recommend for cameras, for microphones, for lighting systems, low cost, but highly effective. And if there's, if you want from now until then to purchase any of that equipment, it's totally up to you. It's not necessary. I'm just giving you what I believe are good quality, low cost pieces of equipment that are going to make your online experiences much more professional, much more powerful. So don't feel the need that if you didn't purchase certain lighting units or whatever cameras that you don't need to show up. That's not true. You show up with what you have. Also, don't feel that if you're not fully polished, oh, I don't want to show up because I'm going to look bad. Show up with what you have. I'm just saying, in the meantime, just practice your messaging as much as possible, because what I'm going to ask you to do when you show up next week is really let all that go. And then we're going to do what we've been doing now is you're going to practice, 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 and then you're going to let it all go. And then we're going to go on camera and we're going to record it. And then we're going to give you feedback on it. Sound cool?
Yeah, Ray, could you repost the webinar recording from last week?
Sure.
I was not able to get some of the websites and that, and my audio for some reason on that download was not good, and I would really like to review that for this next session. That's okay.
And I think
Absolutely.
Keba was asking, there was one of the links did not work.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I noticed
Ray will
that
redo
too.
that, yeah.
That is a good link. It was the website went down.
Ah.
So the site actually went down completely. So I'll check to see if it's back up. If it is not back up, I'll give you another article that contains the questions as well, very similar.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Awesome.
And
Thank
feel free to connect with Maria throughout the week. If you
Yeah.
have any questions, she'll help coach you along to next week, which is going to be awesome. I believe that everybody, from what I've seen today,
All natural.
you guys are pros. You're going to be completely fine for next week.
How do we submit the questions? Through the website where it says submit your question, or just through the email?
You can do either. You can put it into, if you're in the site.
Can you do me a favor though? Do it through email so I can compile that properly.
Okay.
And that would be the best. So the admin at vipshowcase.com.
Okay.
And then we will forward that to everyone as well. So I'll just do it in an email, just in an email so everyone can be ready. And just so that you know, even though you have these questions, what we did today is really the best way to do an interview, which is extemporaneous, where people are just throwing questions at you because you are in your element. This shouldn't throw you off because this is your topic. And I love what Keba was saying. I was on the phone with Keba yesterday, and Keba is like, I'm good with who I am. She has peace. And I think if we just come from that place, when we show up, no matter, even if we don't know the answer to a question, it's okay. Just know in the end that you're here to deliver a message, have the end in mind, as Karen was saying, and everyone is going to do great. So just tap into that.
Remember, the purpose of the scripting and the storyboarding was to achieve mastery on those chunked down subject areas, those
Right.
chunked down Q&A. It's not about getting the exact words, because if you do that, you're going to get in your head. If you start to try to memorize any type
Don't
of
do
script,
that.
you're going to go in your head and it's going to be a really clunky interview. The purpose of scripting is just to master a subject area for the purpose of developing confidence. When you're scripting out the content, and then you can take that content and speak it in a dozen different ways.
Yeah.
The cool thing is when you get the essence of a message, learn to be able to explain it to somebody in many different ways, using different phrases, using different terms. And as long as you're getting the essence of the message, you're going to be fine. And you explore thoroughly this area, this question, this chunked down bite-sized piece of content. You just explore it thoroughly, and you get yourself to a point where you ask the interviewer, ask me anything that you want on this subject area, on this chunked down piece of content. So an example would be chunked down pieces. Your success showcase would be your past, your present, and your future. That would be chunked down. So in 3 minutes, what language would I use to describe my past? So the question is, hey, who are you? Where'd you come from? What have you done? So however the question's worded, your response would be your story and your coffee shop story. It's the way that you would explain it. If you're sitting across from someone in a coffee shop, you're with your friend and you're relaxed and you're comfortable and you want to explain it with the most emphasis and the effectiveness to really convey the message. And when you get to that place where it doesn't matter who asks you the question, you know how to answer it in so many different versions of it. Because once your confidence is up, you can go out and reach out and do media interviews all day long. And you're never going to feel anxiety or the fear of looking bad because you just know that so well. So that's your assignment for this week, is just pick your 3 showcases, pick those 3 questions, formulate good, solid responses, but don't get so hung up on, oh, what am I going to say when they ask me? Because when we come to do this, we want you to just let it go and let everyone ask you the question. Let the host ask the question in the way the host wants to ask the question. And then you just respond extemporaneously in the way that feels very natural and very comfortable for you. And if you get that, your future of media interviews is going to be awesome. You're going to shine. You're going to look like a star. Mark our words for it. We've got lots of years of doing this and helping people. So if you're having any insecurities about yourself, which I don't think anybody is, but if you are, stick with us. We'll get you to star power absolutely very soon.